Welcome back. Let's finish reading, but we need some light, I think. It's not the middle of the night. It's 4 p.m., but it will be dark like 15 or 16 hours to 8 or 9 a.m. tomorrow. Yes, I'm eating some candy. One left. I need this one. I forgot to close it. Look at that. That's not good. That's my deep freeze. I forgot to close it. That's because of this one. I was out selling empty bottles. Selling bottles. I buy 5 more colas. But that's real Coca-Cola brand. Got it out here, but so dark you cannot see it. I have it up here. But that's very cheap cola, like $1.20. I have big discount. It's real Coca-Cola brand, $1.20. So I think I will buy some more tomorrow. But let's read. This is not that. This vlog. I'm reading about nuclear bombs.
The before image looks like a city. In the after image, everything has been obliterated and it is recognizable as the same area only by the rivers running through it, which form an island in the center of the photographs. Nagasaki before and after the bombing, after the fires had burned out for big stink for 40 minutes. Before leaving the rendezvous point, Sweeney consulted Ashworth, who was in charge of the bomb. As commander of the aircraft, Sweeney made the decision to proceed to the primary, the city of Kokura. 195, after exceeding the original departure time limit by nearly a half hour. Boxcar, accompanied by the great artiste, proceeded to Kokura, 30 minutes away. The delay at the rendezvous had resulted in clouds and drifting smoke over Kokura from fires started by a major firebombing raid by 224 B-29s on nearby Yohata the previous day. 196. Additionally, the Yohata Steel Works intentionally burned coal tar to produce black smoke. 197. The clouds and smoke resulted in 70% of the area over Kokure being covered, obscuring the aiming point. 3 bomb runs were made over the next 50 minutes, burning fuel and exposing the aircraft repeatedly to the heavy defenses around Kokura, but the bombardier was unable to drop visually. By the time of the 3rd bomb run, Japanese anti-aircraft fire was getting close, and 2nd Lieutenant Jacob Bizer, who was monitoring Japanese communications, reported activity on the Japanese fighter direction radio bands. 198, with fuel running low because of the failed fuel pump. Boxcar and the Great Artiste headed for their secondary target, Nagasaki. 191. Fuel consumption calculations made en route indicated that Boxcar had insufficient fuel to reach Iwo Jima and would be forced to divert to Okinawa, which had become entirely Allied-occupied territory only 6 weeks earlier. After initially deciding that if Nagasaki were obscured on their arrival, the crew would carry the bomb to Okinawa and dispose of it in the ocean if necessary, Ashworth agreed with Sweeney's suggestion that a radar approach would be used if the target was obscured. 199, 200, at about 7:50 Japanese time, an air raid alert was sounded in Nagasaki, but the all-clear signal was given at 8:30. When only 2 B-29 Super Fortresses were sighted at 10:53 Japanese time, GMT +9, the Japanese apparently assumed that the planes were only on reconnaissance and no further alarm was given. 201, a few minutes later at 11 Japanese time, the Great Artiste dropped instruments attached to 3 parachutes. These instruments also contained an unsigned letter to Professor Ryokichi Sagan, a physicist at the University of Tokyo who studied with 3 of the scientists responsible for the atomic bomb at the University of California, Berkeley, urging him to tell the public about the danger involved with these weapons of mass destruction. The messages were found by military authorities but not turned over to Sagan until a month later. 202. In 1949, one of the authors of the letter, Luis Alvarez, met with Sagan and seen the letter. 203. At 11:01 Japanese time, a last-minute break in the clouds over Nagasaki allowed Boxcar's bombardier Captain Kermit Behan to visually sight the target as ordered. The Fat Man weapon, containing a core of about 5 kilograms, 11 pounds, of plutonium, was dropped over the city's industrial valley. It exploded 47 seconds later at 11:02 Japanese time, 190, at 503 ±10 m, 1,650 ±33 feet, above a tennis court, 204, halfway between the Mitsubishi Steel and Arms Works in the south and the Nagasaki Arsenal in the north. This was nearly 3 km, 1.9 mi, northwest of the planned hypocenter. The blast was confined to the Urakami Valley and a major portion of the city was protected by the intervening hills. 205. The resulting explosion released the equivalent energy of 21 ±2 kT, 87.9 ±8.4 TJ. 137. Big Stink spotted the explosion from 160 kilometers, 100 mi, away, and flew over to observe. 206. The bomb destroyed the Roman Catholic Urakami Tenshudo Church. Boxcar flew onto Okinawa, arriving with only sufficient fuel for a single approach. Sweeney tried repeatedly to contact the control tower for landing clearance, but received no answer. He could see heavy air traffic landing and taking off from Yonton Airfield. Firing of every flare on board to alert the field to his emergency landing, the Boxcar came in fast, landing at 230 km per hour, 140 miles per hour, instead of the normal 190 km per hour, 120 miles per hour. The number Trojan died from fuel starvation as he began the final approach. Touching down on only 3 engines midway down the landing strip, Boxcar bounced up into the air again for about 7.6 meters, 25 feet, before slamming back down hard. The heavy B-29 slewed towards a row of parked B-24 bombers before the pilots managed to regain control. Its reversible propellers were insufficient to slow the aircraft adequately, and with both pilots standing on the brakes, Boxcar made a swerving 90-degree turn at the end of the runway to avoid running off it. A second engine died from fuel exhaustion before the plane came to a stop. 207. Following the mission, there was confusion over the identification of the plane. The first eyewitness account by war correspondent William L. Lawrence of the New York Times, who accompanied the mission aboard the aircraft piloted by Bob, reported that Sweeney was leading the mission in the Great Artiste. He also noted its Victor number as 77, which was that of Boxcar. 208. Lawrence had interviewed Sweeney and his crew, and was aware that they referred to their airplane as the Great Artiste. Except for Enola Gay, none of the 393 DSB-29s had yet had names painted on the noses, a fact which Lawrence himself noted in his account. Unaware of the switch in aircraft, Lawrence assumed Victor 77 was the Great Artiste. 209, which was in fact Victor 89. 210, events on the ground. Although the bomb was more powerful than the one used on Hiroshima, its effects were confined by all sides to the narrow Urakami Valley. 211, of 7,500 Japanese employees who worked inside the Mitsubishi munitions plant, including mobilized students and regular workers, 6,200 were killed. Some 22,000 others who worked in other war plants and factories in the city died as well. 212. Casualty estimates for immediate deaths vary widely, ranging from 22,000 to 75,000. 212. At least 35,040,000 people were killed and 60,000 others injured. 213. 214. In the days and months following the explosion, more people died from their injuries. Because of the presence of undocumented foreign workers, and a number of military personnel in transit, there are great discrepancies in the estimates of total deaths by Theed of 1945. A range of 60,000 to 80,000 can be found in various studies. 120. Unlike Hiroshima's military death toll, only 150 Japanese soldiers were killed instantly, including 36 from 134th AAA Regiment of the 4th AAA Division. 114. At least 8 Allied prisoners of war, POWs, died from the bombing, and as many as 13 may have died. The 8 confirmed deaths included a British POW, Royal Air Force Corporal Ronald Shaw, 217, and 7 Dutch POWs. 218. One American POW, Joe Kiyomiya, was in Nagasaki at the time of the bombing but survived, reportedly having been shielded from the effects of the bomb by the concrete walls of his cell. 219. There were 24 Australian POWs in Nagasaki, all of whom survived. 220. The radius of total destruction was about 1.6 kilometer, 1 mi, followed by fires across the northern portion of the city to 3.2 kilometer, 2 mi, south of the bomb. 142. 221. About 58% of the Mitsubishi arms plant was damaged, and about 78% of the Mitsubishi Steel Works. The Mitsubishi Electric Works suffered only 10% structural damage as it was on the border of the main destruction zone. The Nagasaki arsenal was destroyed in the blast. 222, although many fires likewise burned following the bombing, in contrast to Yuzuki Yamahata photographed this child incinerated in Nagasaki. American forces censored such images in Japan until 1952. 215, 216. Hiroshima, where sufficient fuel density was available, no firestorm developed in Nagasaki as the damaged areas did not furnish enough fuel to generate the phenomenon. Instead, ambient wind pushed the fire spread along the valley. 223. Had the bomb be dropped more precisely at the intended aiming point, which was downtown Nagasaki at the heart of the historic district, the destruction to medical and administrative infrastructure would have been even greater. 63.